Discover the incredible design of Earth. A touching journey to life-changing wonders revealed. The sun was setting over Maplewood, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a breathtaking sight that felt almost cinematic. But in this small town, the colors couldn't disguise the grayness seeping into the community's spirit. Jake, a 30-year-old mechanic, stood outside his family auto shop, feeling the weight of his father's illness and the burden of their fading dreams. This wasn't just a shop. It was the heart of their family. Each creak of the door echoed with memories of laughter, late nights tinkering with engines, and joy in simple achievements. Now that joy felt distant. Jake's phone buzzed in his pocket, snapping him out of his reverie. News spread quickly in Maplewood. There was talk of a factory wanting to set up shop just outside of town. The promise of jobs sent ripples through the community, igniting excitement in some and dread in others. Jake's childhood friends exchanged nervous glances, their whispered fears mingling with hope. Would their hometown be known for cheap labor or for building dreams? Gathering his thoughts, Jake's heart raced. He felt a calling to take action, so he decided to organize town hall meetings, rallying the residents to discuss their future. Looking into their eyes, he saw hope mingled with confusion, each person wrestling with their own vision for Maplewood. Our forefathers laid down their lives to build this place, he urged, his voice trembling yet firm. We owe it to ourselves to decide our fate together. Before long, the meetings turned heated. Voices clashed like competing engines, revealing rifts within friendships that ran deep. And then, like a bolt from the blue, Jake's brother Mark stepped into the room. The tension was palpable as memories of betrayal surged. Old wounds reopened. Mark had left for a bigger paycheck years ago, seeking a lifestyle Jake never understood. You think progress will save us, but it'll just ruin our roots. Jake's voice broke under the strain of conflicting loyalty. Each word felt like a punch, and silence followed heavy with emotions unvoiced. In that quiet moment, Jake confronted his own turmoil. What truly mattered in life? The glimmer of success measured in dollars, or the bond of brotherhood forged in shared sacrifice? As Mark's eyes locked onto his, Jake could feel the weight of generations pressing down on them, a history they had waded through together. The crowd absorbed his passion, their faces reflecting his desperation to fight for the soul of Maplewood. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jake's pleas began to resonate, the murmurs of his neighbors transforming from criticism to contemplation. What do we want our legacy to be? He implored, the desperation in his voice punctuating the air. Friends exchanged glances, the cloud of uncertainty beginning to part. But just when it seemed a shift was looming, Mark stood still, the silence echoing louder than any yell. Would his brother's silence unearth their shared past or bury it deeper? The room held its breath, and the future of Maplewood hung precariously in the balance, leaving everyone at the edge of their seats, waiting for a resolution that felt both vital and far away. Mark finally took a deep breath, his gaze drifting from Jake to the anxious crowd. The weight of years apart filled the space between them, memories of their late-night talks, the very essence of their bond overshadowed by the decisions that had pulled them apart. I didn't come here just to argue, he said quietly, yet every word carried the force of a long time kept inside. I came to listen. That confession broke something in Jake. The anger had been there, simmering beneath the surface. But he saw it now. Mark wasn't here to fight. He was searching for a connection, just like everyone else. Listening starts by acknowledging how far we've drifted, Jake replied, fighting back the sting of tears. We were kids who believed we could change the world together. His heart raced as he remembered how they used to dream, sprawled on the hood of their dad's old pickup, mapping out their futures under the stars. The room shifted, a palpable change in the air, and the crowd leaned in. Jake could see the flicker of recognition in their eyes. They were all haunted by past choices, the paths that led some of them to leave, to seek something bigger than Maplewood. "Mark, I'm scared. What if this factory takes everything we love? What if jobs become just another reason to leave?" A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience. Mark nodded gravely, his expression softening. "And what if it doesn't? What if it helps us grow? We can't bury our heads in the sand. Life moves forward." His voice steadied, the tension waning as he spoke directly to the crowd. "You've got to ask yourselves what's more important, the community we grew up in or the opportunities we can create." Jake's heart ached as he looked at Mark, their bond straining and healing at once. The brothers stood on opposing sides, but for the first time in a long time, they were both fighting for Maplewood. "I think we need to meet in the middle," Jake said, raising his voice slightly. "Why not form a committee? A group to explore both sides to ensure progress doesn't trample what makes us, us." He felt the stirrings of hope as he proposed the idea. The audience's murmurs grew louder, a chorus of excitement breaking through the concern. People started nodding, and remarks flew back and forth, some supportive, others cautious. But there was now a spark of unity among the chaos, the realization that together they could navigate these waters. Mark gave Jake a searching look, weighing his brother's words. The flood of running emotions brimmed on Jake's face, as if he were asking, "Can we still do this together?" A silence settled again, but this time it felt different. It wasn't the weight of despair. It hung with anticipation, a quiet promise that the brothers might find their way back to each other. Just then, the loud clanging of a bell broke the tension, signaling the end of the meeting. The crowd began to disperse, but voices rose in agreement around the committee concept. Buzzing with the energy of the unknown as everyone filed out, Jake felt a hand on his shoulder. Turning, he faced Mark. "Let us not wait another year to connect again," he said. The sincerity behind Mark's words filled Jake with an unfamiliar warmth. "I'd like that," Jake replied, his heart swelling with cautious optimism. But just as hope began unfolding, another figure stepped into the doorway with urgency, a town council member, eyes wide with alarm. "You need to hear this," they gasped, breathless. "We're getting reports that the factory wants to move faster than we thought. We're running out of time." An icy grip of fear snatched Jake's heart, twisting it in anguish. They had just begun to bridge the divide, but the fear of losing everything loomed larger than ever. What path would they choose now, and could they unite their vision before it was too late? Jake stood frozen, the pulse of anxiety thudding in his chest like a war drum. The words of the council member echoed in his mind. Running out of time. He had fought so hard to bring his brother back into the fold and unite the town, only for the threat of change to loom over them. Mark's expression shifted instantly, the worry washing over him like a tide. "What do we do?" he asked, his voice low but determined. Jake took a deep breath, glancing around the now empty room. Shadows from late afternoon sunlight streamed through the tall windows, leaving a golden glow that felt both hopeful and daunting. "We need to call everyone back. We have to come up with a plan before it's too late," he urged, feeling the urgency rise within him. "I agree," Mark responded, his posture straightening as resolve set in. "But let's not just talk, we need a strategy. Something everyone can get behind." The two brothers shared a nod of understanding before rushing out of the room, their separation momentarily forgotten. Outside, the remnants of a gathering were still buzzing with energy. Families lingered, exchanging thoughts on the fading sunset, and a few of their friends helped to close equipment and stacks of flyers that had been handed out. "Hey, everyone!" Jake shouted, piecing together a vision of what this moment could mean. The crowd paused, eyes turning their direction. "We're calling an emergency meeting. We have news about the factory, and it's moving faster than we thought. We need all your voices there. Together we can make a difference." The murmurs rolled through the crowd again, half hopeful, half anxious. Jake saw people share worried glances and heard whispers about the challenge ahead. It was as if the community itself could sense the weight of the moment, the potential to both preserve and innovate. Mark stepped beside Jake, lending his presence to the call. Timeline meetings for everyone. Let us use all of our strengths and brainstorm the best way to keep Maplewood intact while also welcoming new growth. Energy crackled in the air. Slowly, folks began to reassemble, and Jake's heart uplifted as he caught sight of familiar faces, friends who had shared laughter, heartbreak, and dreams. They were more than just individuals. They were pieces of a puzzle. Together, they were what made Maplewood whole. As hands began to raise, ideas started flowing. One voice suggested opening the factory for community tours. Another wanted a showcase of local crafts to attract visitors. Each idea sparked a new conversation, building on one another like a living organism that pulsed with energy. But amid the excitement, Jake's gaze drifted back to Mark. There was uncertainty dancing behind his brother's eyes, a shadow of fear that was familiar yet frustrating. Jake wanted to reach out, to remind him they were in this together, but they both knew the fragility of their bond was still at stake. Just then, the town council member re-entered, disrupting Jake's thoughts once more. The factory will be hosting a public forum tomorrow to discuss community concerns. We need to assemble our ideas quickly. With the clock ticking, Jake felt the weight of responsibility pressing hard on his shoulders. There was so much at stake, not just the factory's future, but the connection he had begun to forge again with Mark and the town. That as the crowd began to disperse with a renewed fire, Jake caught Mark's gaze one last time. There was a silent agreement. They were stepping onto this road together. But as everyone drifted away, a thought haunted Jake. What were they really fighting against? And would they truly unite in the face of what was coming? Or would old wounds rip open again? Jake took a deep breath, clenching his fists. Tomorrow would be the moment of truth, but he would need every ounce of hope and strength to pull it off. Was it enough to change their futures? Or would everything they loved slip through their fingers once more? The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch on forever, as Jake stood in the fading light, feeling the weight of the world settle on his shoulders. He turned to see Mark speaking with a small group of friends, their animated discussion punctuated by laughter that felt bittersweet against the urgency of the moment. Jake wished he could join in, share a laugh, but the clock was ticking, and he needed to focus. "Hey, Mark," Jake called out, his voice cutting through the laughter. "We should map out our ideas before heading home." Mark nodded, glancing back at the group he had been talking to. "Sure thing. Give me a sec." He stepped away, his expression shifting back to the serious tone that matched Jake's. Together, they found a quiet bench just outside the community center. The conversations around them faded into a dull hum as they spread out their notes, scribbled ideas, half-formed sketches, and lists of people they thought could help. "Okay," Jake said, trying to keep his tone light despite the tension in his chest. "Let us break this down. We know we have to show the council what we bring to the table, the heart of Maplewood, right?" Mark looked at Jake, his eyes a mixture of hope and fear. What if they don't see it that way? What if they only see numbers and profit? Jake sighed, the anxiety creeping into his voice. "Then we'll have to make them see it. We can't just sit back and wait for someone else to fight our battle." Mark's brow furrowed, a sign Jake recognized all too well. But what if they choose the factory over us? Over our way of life? "Then we fight harder," Jake replied fiercely. "We fight for our community, for everything we've built together. It's on us to make them realize that Maplewood isn't just a location, it's family." The determination settled over them, thick and palpable. Inspired, they dove back into their notes, refining their ideas. The sound of their pens scratching against paper filled the air, the resolve echoing in every stroke. Community events could draw more people in, Mark suggested, his fingers tapping against the paper, a sign of the burgeoning idea taking root. Like a harvest festival showcasing what we grow here. It ties our identity to the factory. They can't just tear down our history. "Yes," Jake exclaimed, feeling a pulse of hope rise. "We can make it a celebration. Highlight our local businesses, have vendors show off their goods. If the council can see how alive this place is, how much it means to us, maybe they'll reconsider." Mark smiled for the first time, a glimmer of excitement breaking through the anxiety. "And we could partner with schools, involve the kids. They need to see the legacy we're protecting. We can create a movement. As they brainstormed, the ideas flowed, the papers filling with plans. But beneath the excitement, Jake could still feel the grip of doubt creeping back. What if they couldn't pull it off in time? As the sky turned a deeper shade of purple, shadows deepened around them, reflecting the uncertainty in his heart. Jake? Mark asked, interrupting his thoughts. What if we face backlash? What if the whole town doesn't back us up? What then? Jake hesitated, the knot in his stomach tightening. Then we face it together. As long as we stand united, we can weather any storm. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for everyone. For hope. Just then, the distant sound of laughter reached them again, reminding them that life was still bubbling around them. Jake looked at Mark, his resolve hardening. Tomorrow we'll show them just how strong Maplewood is. No more doubt. Their eyes met, the gravity of their unspoken commitment binding them together as brothers once more. But deep down, Jake couldn't shake the feeling twisting in his gut. As night fell, it dawned on him. Could they truly rally the town behind their cause? Or were they walking into a battle they couldn't win? With the dawn approaching, one thought lingered: what would happen if they lost their fight? As dawn broke over Maplewood, a pale light seeped into Jake's bedroom, stirring him from a restless sleep. He rubbed his eyes, feeling the weight of his heart pressing against his chest. Today was not just another day, it was the day they would present their ideas to the council. The thrill of anticipation mixed uneasily with doubt. Throwing on his worn jeans and a faded flannel shirt, he glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away faster than he wanted. With quick strides, he made his way downstairs, the familiar scent of pancakes wafting through the air. His mother stood at the stove, flipping the fluffy discs with care. Big day today. Huh? She said, her back towards him. Yeah, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. I want it to go well. She turned, her warm smile easing a fraction of his anxiety. You've worked hard, Jake. Just remember to breathe. His younger sister, Lily, bounced into the kitchen, her pigtails swinging. Are you going to be famous today? She asked, her eyes wide with innocent excitement. Jake chuckled, ruffling her hair. Maybe. I'll let you know if I get my own poster. She giggled, oblivious to the seriousness of the situation. That S when his father entered, coffee in hand. The lines etched on his face hinted at stories and struggles, but his gaze sparkled with pride. Don't forget why this is important, his dad said. You're fighting for your home. Those words lingered in Jake's mind as he finished his breakfast. They were all counting on him. He needed to channel his father's determination. After a rushed goodbye, he set off with Mark, their breath visible in the crisp morning air. The streets felt different, charged and alive as locals went about their usual routines. Jake held tightly to his notes, for they felt like the very pulse of Maplewood. When they reached the community center, they found a crowd was already forming outside. It was a diverse mix of faces: neighbors, families, the elderly who had lived through choice after choice regarding the town's future. A sudden sense of unity washed over him as he scanned the gathering crowd, and for a moment, his doubt faded. Look at them, Mark whispered, fading his previous fears. They believe in this just as much as we do. As the doors opened, the hum of others' conversations welcomed them inside. The council members were gathering, their expressions unreadable. Everyone took their seats, Jake and Mark at the front, both hearts racing. An old coach of Jake's caught his eye, a proud nod from the man reminding him of past victories and the strength they needed to draw on today. The chamber filled slowly. Each person seated represented their fight, their hopes. Then came the moment. As Jake stood before the council, he felt an electrifying mix of excitement and fear. Their eyes were upon him, watching. Thank you all for being here. Today we fight for our community. Jake strutted into their presentation, his voice steadying with each word. He spoke of harvest festivals, of shared legacies, of dreams sealed under Maplewood's skies. He saw Mark at the side, his friend beaming with pride, and it fueled him. But as he finished, a councilman frowned, arms crossed. That's all fine and good, but how does it affect the economy? We need facts. The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Jake felt that familiar knot tightening in his stomach as he searched for words. Mark stepped closer, his whisper breaking through the rising tension. Stick to our hearts, Jake. We can convince them. Jake inhaled deeply, pulling from the well of emotions swelling inside him. He remembered the laughter, the hope, everything Maplewood meant. It's more than profits, he said, voice rising with passion. If we lose this place, we lose each other. We don't just need numbers, we need a future. The murmur from the crowd echoed around him, swelling into something powerful. The council looked uncertain. A flicker of interest sparked in their eyes. But could they truly be swayed? As Jake finished, excitement collided with dread. Would their heartfelt pleas be enough? The moment thickened, and every eye was locked on him. What would happen if they couldn't convince them? Would Maplewood fade into memory? He wasn't sure. His heart raced, but the fight was just beginning. The silence was palpable as the council exchanged glances. The air weighed down with tension. Jake's heart hammered in his chest. Every second felt like an eternity. He searched for signs of hope in their expressions. Did they understand? Did they feel the weight of his words? Then, a woman from the council, her eyes softened by a hint of nostalgia, spoke up. You've painted a vivid picture, Jake. But what makes your dreams different than others we've seen? Why should Maplewood be our priority? Her voice wasn't harsh, but it carried the weight of past decisions, of lost opportunities. Jake could sense the room hanging on his reply. It was now or never. He remembered a summer spent working at the local orchard. He remembered the sun setting over Mount Maple, the warmth spreading through him as laughter rang out among friends and family. Because it's not just about a project or a proposal. It's about the people who build it, the stories we share, and the memories we create. Maplewood isn't just a name on a map, it's home. Lily's laughter echoed in his mind, his father's steady presence rooted in him. The crowd began to nod, slowly at first, then more assuredly. A stirring began to ripple through the attendees, whispers of agreement twinkling in the air. Mark stepped forward, his solid stance beside Jake offering silent support. We're a community, he added. When one of us thrives, we all do. We're here for each other, and together, we can shape a future that honors everyone. The council members shifted in their seats, and suddenly the questions felt less threatening, more like a dialogue. Flames of hope flickered back to life in Jake's heart. Could they be turning? Then, one of the older members tapped his pen against a notepad, breaking into a thoughtful silence, and asked, "What if we take a step back and let the community voice what they want? Not just the two of you. It's about everyone." An idea sparked in Jake's mind, a community meeting, a chance for every voice to be heard. Yes, we could host a forum, a way for everyone to pitch in their thoughts, their visions. It's about more than just Mark and me. It's about the heart and soul of Maplewood. Mark beamed, eyes wide with excitement. Imagine the possibilities. We can gather ideas, share dreams, and truly inspire a cohesive vision. The murmur spread through the crowd, each person leaning in, feeling the renewed energy. The council seemed intrigued, contemplating the prospect of engaging the community as a whole. Jake noticed their stoic expressions starting to soften, allowing genuine curiosity to shine through as the council members deliberated. Jake's heart danced between hope and fear. Was it possible they were on the cusp of a breakthrough? With steely determination, he added, "This isn't just our fight, it's all of ours. Together, we can ensure Maplewood doesn't just survive but thrives." A wave of applause erupted. It was a sound fueled by hope, filled with resonance and strength. Jake saw faces in the crowd, neighbors, friends, even strangers, all united under the same dream. But then, as the applause faded, a heavy-set man stood up quietly. His furrowed brow and downcast eyes drew Jake's attention. What if the council rejects even a community vision? What happens then? The question hung heavily in the air, a reminder of the uncertainty still looming. Jake felt a pang of anxiety, yet also the spark of resolve igniting within him. "Then we keep fighting," he declared, his voice steady, unwavering. "We refuse to back down. This is just the beginning." With determination burning in his heart, he looked into the eyes of the crowd. They were ready. They were willing to stand with him. But deeper questions lingered. What sacrifices would they have to make? What dangers lay ahead? In that moment, as Jake stood resolute, the answers loomed just out of reach. The future of Maplewood lay ahead, bright yet uncertain. Would they rise to the challenge? Or would their dreams become echoes of what could have been? The council members glanced at each other, a decision looming just beyond. The horizon. What would they choose? A soft murmur rippled through the crowd. The atmosphere shifted from nervous anticipation to a palpable sense of possibility. Jake took a deep breath, letting the wave of emotion wash over him. Hope flickered in every corner of the room. It felt contagious. He cleared his throat, ready to address the gathering. But before he could speak, a young woman with wild curls stood up in the back, her expression fiery. "We need to talk about the park. It's been neglected for years. If we're building a future, we need to start with a place where our kids can play and grow." The crowd erupted into murmurs of agreement, voices eager to share. Jake felt his heart swell. That was exactly what he envisioned, community-driven passion spilling into ideas, like sunlight breaking through the clouds. "Let South bring the park back to life," someone else shouted. "Yep. Let's have family movies in the park and festival days," chimed another voice. Mark leaned closer to Jake, whispering, "This is exactly what we need. A place for families to connect." Jake nodded, energizing himself with the spirit of the crowd. "And think about the farmers market. It could showcase our local produce, boost our economy, and create a hub for everyone." The talk grew rambunctious, a collage of dreams intertwining in the air. Voices crescendoed, calling for a community garden, live music, and even art festivals highlighting local talent. Then, as if sensing the excitement, a council member spoke up, an elder named Mr. Thompson, who had always mirrored community values with a tender heart. "You all are voicing what we've needed to hear for a long time. But we also need to navigate the challenges that come with such goals. How do we fund these ideas?" Jake's pulse quickened. The question was crucial, but it also lit a flame of determination deep within him. "We can start small fundraising events, local sponsorships, maybe even grants for community projects. Everyone has something to contribute. Your neighbor's bakery could donate treats, a local business might give discounts, and we can even create a crowdfunding campaign. Together we are stronger." Applause erupted anew, this time echoing with conviction. "Count me in for donuts," one man shouted, laughter weaving through the crowd as the council listened intently. Jake noticed the wavering doubts on their faces softening. They weren't entirely convinced, but the idea of community collaboration sparked something deep, a turn toward hope. Suddenly, a tall woman with kind eyes raised her hand, her voice steady. "I think we should involve our school. They could integrate community service into the curriculum. Imagine the youth being part of rebuilding Maplewood. It could instill a sense of pride and responsibility." "Yes," Jake responded, excitement bubbling up. "Each generation deserves to feel connected to their home. If we can lay this foundation, we'll raise kids who will cherish and contribute to their community." As Jake spoke, the council exchanged glances again. Something was shifting. But just as joy surged through the crowd, the heavy-set man from before opened his mouth again. "That all sounds great. But what if the council doesn't believe in us? What if they refuse to support our initiatives?" The wave of hope met a sudden crash of reality. Jake's stomach sank as he heard the fear pouring back into the room. "Then we make them believe," he replied, his voice a battle cry. "We show them that our community's heart is bigger than bureaucracy. We organize, we rally, and we refuse to fade away." A fire ignited in the crowd, eyes gleaming with determination now. It was a moment of realization that echoed deep within every heart present. Jake took a moment, looking at the faces around him. They were ready to fight for their dreams, to shout until they were heard. The council had a decision to make, and regardless of what came next, He knew one truth. They were no longer alone in this journey. But was it enough? How much longer would the fight last? What sacrifices would they have to face to protect their dream? With uncertainty swirling in the air, the tension surged once more, and Jacob's heart raced. He faced the council, ready for whatever came next. Would they stand with the community, or separate from it once again? The answer lay in the decision about to unfold before them. The room fell into a heavy silence, each person holding their breath, waiting for the council to react. The flickering lights overhead seemed to mirror the tension in Jacob's chest. His heart pounded, and time stretched as if everything hinged on the moment before them. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat, his gaze piercing through the audience. I appreciate the energy and the ideas you all have shared. But grassroots movements, while powerful, need a solid foundation. We'll need detailed plans, partnerships, and a clear vision of how we can move forward together. Jacob's stomach twisted, but he didn't let the frustration show. We'll make that plan, Mr. Thompson. We'll work every night if we have to. The community wants this, and the council can't ignore that. Talk is cheap, son, interjected the heavy-set man with a scowl. You need a concrete proposal, not just enthusiasm. A ripple of unease moved through the crowd again. Voices lowered, fear creeping in. Jake felt it, too, a shadow among the light. But he couldn't let that happen. Not now. Then let us vote, he shouted, rallying their spirits. Let us decide tonight that we'll take the first steps. We can break into groups, assign tasks, and set a date for a follow-up meeting with the council. They can see our plan taking shape. The crowd stirred, voices coming to life once more. Yeah. Let us create committees, someone shouted. Make it happen, Jake, cheered another voice. Emboldened, Jake leaned into the momentum. We can start brainstorming right now. Neighborhood cleanups, meetings to design our park, and how about we schedule a day for parents and kids to come out together? We'll show them that we're ready to take charge. The energy surged back, rekindled. Ideas bounced around like sparks in a fireworks show, transforming fear into motivation. As the crowd began to disperse into small groups, designing plans for the park, farmers market, and school involvement, Jake felt a rush of hope. He joined a nearby table, where a few mothers were discussing activities for the children's south part of the park. All we need is a focal point, a way to get everyone invested, said a woman with an infectious smile. If we build it, they will come. Exactly. Jake nodded, grabbing a pen. And maybe we can invite local artists to paint murals. That will draw people in. We need something that speaks to Maplewood's heart. As ideas bloomed, laughter bubbled in the air, a tapestry of connections stitching together their community bit by bit. But the unease still lurked in Jake's mind. The council could still dismiss them. They could reject everything they worked for and leave Maplewood to linger in its shadows. Then, a smattering of applause broke through the air. They had seen the council members subtly nodding at the passion in the room. Their reservations hadn't disappeared completely, but something had shifted in their demeanor. Mark approached Jake, a light in his eyes. This could actually work, Jake. I've not seen the council this engaged in years. But Jake's resolve was tested. Yeah, but what if it wasn't enough? He whispered, an edge of fear clawing at him. Look around, man. They're invested. You've got this. We've got this. Jake nodded, but the worry wouldn't easily slip away. They continued diving into their plans, mapping out their vision. Each idea was a step toward something greater. The crowd was electric, and for now they would embrace the energy, the hope. As night fell and the last lights flickered overhead, Jake's mind raced. He had felt the birth of something magical that evening. Yet the council's formal response loomed like a storm cloud ready to unveil its reign. Would they rise to the occasion, or would fear and financial concerns snuff out their dreams? Jake straightened up, determined to face this challenge head-on. Tomorrow we solidify our voice, and we won't back down. As the crowd echoed their cheers, Jake's heart swelled with both excitement and dread. What awaited them in the council's decision? The looming question weighed heavily, and the fight was far from over. The morning sun streamed through Jake's bedroom window, filtering golden rays across his room and spilling onto the floor, washing away the remnants of night. But for Jake, sleep had evaded him. Anxiety coiled tightly around his mind, wrapping him in doubt. He tossed and turned, flipping through every possibility that could unfold at the council meeting that day. With a loud sigh, he sat up, running a hand through his hair. Mark had been right. There was a spark of hope. But what if they dismissed their ideas as mere dreams? What if the council didn't share their vision? The thought gnawed at him, heavy and cold. He quickly pulled on a worn shirt and jeans, grabbed his backpack, and headed for the kitchen. The familiar smell of coffee filled the air, mingling with the sound of his mother bustling about. She glanced up at him, concern flickering in her eyes. "Big day ahead?" she asked, pouring him a cup of coffee. "Yeah, you could say that," Jake replied, forcing a smile as he took a seat at the table. "Remember what Dad used to say about courage?" she said, placing a hand on his. "It's not the absence of fear. It's pushing through it." His heart warmed at her encouragement. "Thanks, Mom. I'll keep that in mind." After breakfast, Jake walked toward the gathering space at the community center, feeling the weight of what lay ahead pressing on his shoulders. He passed familiar faces along the way, kids rushing to school, neighbors watering their flowers, and elderly folks sharing stories on their porches. Each step reminded him of why he was fighting to uplift this community that had shaped him. Reaching the center, Jake could already sense the electric atmosphere. Groups clustered in huddles, reviewing plans, sketching out ideas, and strategizing their next moves. The air was thick with determination and camaraderie. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in this moment. "Hey, Jake," a voice called. It was Maria, a local teacher. "We're ready to present our ideas." We've worked on incorporating suggestions from everyone. Jake nodded, feeling an infectious energy bubble up again. "Great, let us show them what we've got." When the council meeting commenced, the room filled to capacity. Jake's heart raced as he took his seat alongside his fellow community members. The council members sat at a long table, a sea of cautious expressions on their faces. Could they see the determination that radiated from the crowd? One by one, the representatives shared their proposals, each inspiring idea sparking more enthusiasm from the audience. Jake listened intently, absorbing the passion and creativity flowing around him. Whenever doubt threatened to creep in, he focused on the faces of his friends, the strength in their eyes igniting a fervor within. Finally, it was Jake's turn. He stepped up to the makeshift podium, gripping a stack of papers tightly in his hands. He could feel the room quiet as he swallowed hard. "Council members, fellow friends, we're not here just to ask for permission to build a park," he began, voice steadying with each word. "We're here to claim our future. Maplewood deserves a space that fosters connection, growth, and creativity." He spoke of the murals that could tell their stories, the farmers' markets that could celebrate local talent, and the collective vision that could transform their neighborhood. The audience leaned in, hanging onto each sentence, reflecting his energy back. But when he finished and stepped back, a familiar fear washed over him again. Would they see the value in their dreams? The council's chairperson, Ms. Jenkins, who had watched quietly, finally spoke. "Your passion is commendable, but we will need solid commitments, efforts in fundraising, plans for maintenance, and more dialogue." Jake's heart dropped. The echoes of doubt crept forward again. Yet before he could waver, Mark's voice sliced through the atmosphere. "We're ready to get to work. We aim to make this happen, and we'll show you how." A wave of courage swept through the crowd. They clapped, their spirits woven into a collective voice rising in solidarity. Jake's eyes darted to each person around him, feeling the swell of hope again as the council deliberated. Jake clenched his hands, heart racing. What would their final decision be? Just then, a young girl raised her hand, her spirit unbroken. "I've got an idea too. Let us make it happen." The room erupted again, and in that moment, Jake realized he wasn't alone. But could their collective strength influence the council's final decision? As murmurs filled the room, Jake felt an undeniable rhythm building. The end of the meeting was near, and the chance for a breakthrough hung in the air like a held breath. Would this be their moment? As eyes turned toward the council members again, Jake knew one thing. Whatever their answer was, the fight was just beginning, and he was ready to rise again. The bright sun poured through the windows of the community center, warming the nervous crowd gathered for the council's decision. Jake felt a mixture of hope and anxiety fluttering in his chest. Today would mark the culmination of all their efforts, the sweat, the late-night meetings, the bonding. It was more than just a park or a factory. It was about their unity, their identity as Maplewood's people. As the council members shuffled papers, Jake's thoughts raced. Mark stood beside him, a steady hand on Jake's shoulder, a silent reminder of their shared journey. Around them, familiar faces, friends, neighbors, and even folks they hadn't seen in years buzzed with anticipation. He searched the crowd, locking eyes with Lily, who whispered, "You got this, Jake." Just then, Ms. Jenkins, with her calm demeanor, cleared her throat. We've listened, and I'm amazed by the community's passion and ideas presented here today. The whole place held its breath. However, we need actionable plans going forward. We want to support initiatives that involve community collaboration, not just a promise for a future project. Jake's heart raced. This could either be a lifeline or a dismissal. If we can demonstrate the commitment of every single person here, it can become a reality. Mark chimed in, rallying the crowd with his tone. Every dream here is tied to a commitment. We'll gather our resources, fundraisers, committee systems, everything. Will prove we're worth investing in. Applause erupted, igniting a fire in the room. Faces brightened with hope, the energy palpable like static electricity. Jenkins nodded thoughtfully, and as the murmurs of agreement swirled, she continued, "That's more like it. I propose we set up a community forum where every idea can be fleshed out, even those that we didn't have time to cover today. We'll vote on the top proposals and see how we can support them." Joyous laughter and cheers filled the space, but with it came the uncertainty of what would follow. "What do you think?" Mark raised an eyebrow at Jake, sensing his trepidation. "I worry they'll forget us as soon as the applause dies," Jake said, his voice low but urgent. "Then we can't stop. We have to keep the momentum going until we see our ideas take shape." Mark replied, determination shining through. More discussions followed, as citizens gravitated toward their respective passions, ideas for the park, local crafts, youth engagement, and more. Jake realized they weren't just building a proposal. They were reconstructing their identity. They were weaving together Maplewood's past, present, and future. As the meeting wrapped up, the council members departed, but the crowd lingered, buzzing with excitement. Jake felt buoyed by the raw energy surrounding him. Suddenly, he recognized familiar laughter. It belonged to his father and his mother, sharing anecdotes from their own childhoods. Jake approached with a smile, pulling them both into a hug. "It feels like we're about to start something amazing, doesn't it?" His father nodded, pride lighting his features. "Son, it's more than just your fight. It's a fight for all of us. You've taken a stand, and it's showing the heart of our town." Those words washed warmth over Jake. The sun bathed them in light, and in that moment, Jake's fear melted away. They were ready to rise together. Every blooming idea in that room mirrored their collective heartbeat, a rhythm uniting their lives, ambitions, and dreams. As evening descended, Jake felt renewed gratitude for his family, his community, and his brother by his side. "I'm proud of us," he whispered to Mark. "Let us keep this going," Mark replied, sharing a look of understanding. "This is just the first chapter." And with that, as hope intertwined with determination, Jake stepped forward. Maplewood's future awaited, but more importantly, they were ready to shape their legacy together. This is your chance. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. We can't do this without your support. Comment below about your reactions and feelings regarding this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Real fans understand the importance of standing together.